Okay, Addie, so this lesson is super cool because it turns out that if you know the diameter of a circle, or even if you know the radius of the circle, you can calculate the circumference of the circle. Isn't that cool? That is so cool, and it works for any circle, which I think is like, some things in math are really cool, really special, and this is one of those things that you can figure out the circumference of the circle if you only know the radius or if you only know the diameter. That is really cool. So hopefully in the activity, what you found out is that for any circle, there's 3 diameters plus a little bit, okay? And so some people use 3, the value of 3, as a rough estimate of pi, but I want you to be a little bit more precise than that because it's actually 3.14, and it actually is a number that goes on forever. It's somewhere close to 3 1/7. So if you were measuring some of your fractions, that's what you should have gotten, but it's about 3.14. So mathematicians for a long time have used this Greek letter right here. That is the symbol for pi. And pi is spelled P-I, not P-I-E, like a delicious pie that you eat that we're going to eat this week. Yay! But it's actually this symbol and this spelling. Okay, and that means pi, and pi is this number. So this number has a special name because it's a special number. Because the number means, like, it's always the ratio of the circumference over the diameter of a circle, right? This number is the ratio of the circumference over the diameter of a circle. Every single time, any circle, no matter how big, no matter how small, as long as it's a circle, pi is this ratio. This is so cool. So because it's such a special number, it has a special name. Okay. So what we do is if you know the radius, let's say you know the radius of the circle, you can figure out the circumference. How do you do that? Oh, sorry, that's kind of the stuff I went over. And, well, I'll just tell you because I don't know where I wrote it down there, somewhere down there. I'll get to it in a second. But you use an equation. And so the circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Okay? Why is it 2 pi r? Well, okay, let me do this one first maybe. Circumference is pi times d, and where d is the diameter. So this is an equation that you definitely have to know. I must have written it down here. Oh, yeah, here it goes. Here we go. So circumference is equal to pi times d. And this, notice that, first of all, notice that it's in a thought cloud. And because it's in a thought cloud, this means you have to memorize this equation. It has to be stuck in your brain, stuck in all the recesses of your brain, that every time you see a circumference and a diameter on a test for the rest of your life, it could be an ACT test, an SAT test, an AP test, it can be a college entrance exam, whatever it is. If you see circumference and you see diameter, you are going to think of this equation. And this equation is going to definitely be part of the answer to that problem. Okay, so C represents circumference every single time. So that's the length. So it has units of length. So it could be centimeters, it could be meters, it could be kilometers if it's a ginormous circle, right? Okay, then you've got this special number pi. Pi, for most of our purposes, you can just plug in the number 3.14 because pi is very close to 3.14. So whenever you're doing these problems, plug that number in, you'll get it right. That's pi. D is the diameter. Diameter is the distance across the circle that goes through the middle. And of course, this is a unit of length, as you know, because you just measured a bunch of them. It could be in millimeters. If it's a tiny circle, it could be centimeters. It could be inches. It could be yards. Any unit of length is going to work for a diameter, but you do have to be consistent with your units. In other words, if you plug in millimeters right here for the diameter, the answer that you get is going to be in millimeters. If you plug in centimeters right here, the answer that you get is going to be in centimeters. So you have to be consistent. You don't want to use centimeters here and then millimeters here. That wouldn't make sense at all. Okay, now, you know and I know that a diameter of a circle, like let's say you've got a circle like this, thank goodness it fixes that for me, huh? And you've got a radius that goes from the middle to here. We both know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, because the diameter is equal to 2r, or it's double the length of the radius. So instead of writing pi times d, and you already have this just, dripping off your tongue, it's already embedded into your brain, you could also memorize this guy. And instead of the d, we put a 2 and we put an r, because 2 times r is the same as d. So this is exactly the same equation as the previous one, except that instead of saying d for diameter, we are using a radius. And sometimes that's a little bit more convenient, because sometimes they just give you the radius in the problem, and instead of trying to figure out the diameter from the radius and then using the previous equation, you can just plug the radius into this equation and get the right answer every single time. So usually, it could be 2rd, right? It doesn't actually matter, or 2r times pi. It doesn't matter the order, because the commutative property of multiplication says that you're going to get the exact same answer. So it's usually written this way. That's the typical way that you'll see it, but everything is the same. You've got your circumference here. You've got your 2 and your r, because that's your radius, and 2 times r is the diameter. And then you've got pi, which is still the same, 3.14. Okay? There's no units on pi because it's a ratio. So it's not 3.14 inches. It's just 3.14. It's just the special name for that number. All right. So I already said that. Let's just do some examples now, okay? So I'm going to jump into the only example, and this is on page 251 of your lesson, okay? So it says, Sydney drew a circle. So Sydney's drawing a circle with a 2-inch radius. So I made a circle here. The radius is 2 inches, just like Sydney's circle. And it says, what is the circumference of the circle? So this is the easiest type of problem that you're going to see with this type of thing, okay? Because they tell you the circle, they tell you the radius, and they want to know the circumference, and the circumference is c. So what we do when you have an equation like this is we substitute. So we're going to substitute values that are the same as these things to get the right answer, okay? Since they gave us the radius and not the diameter, I'm going to use this equation right here, but it doesn't matter. You could plug in diameter and say, oh, well, the diameter is double that, so the diameter is going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to use this equation and put 4 inches here for the diameter. You could do that if you wanted to, but I'll just do it this way and do c is equal to 2 pi r. So what we do is we substitute. C is equal to 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which they told us is 2 inches, period. So these are, I just put dots there, but what we're doing is we're multiplying all of these things times each other. Okay, so 2 times 3.14 times 2, and you could simplify it to 3.14 times 4, and then plug that into a calculator, and you will get an answer of 12.56, and it has a unit of inches because of that guy right there. So this is the circumference. Wham, there you go. The circumference of the circle is 12.56 inches. So if she draws a circle and she knows the radius, she also, without measuring, this is the miracle of it, she knows the circumference is going to be 12.56 inches. That is so cool. Okay, and that's basically it. Oh, I saw this little picture, and I was like, I've got to show Addy this because she'll remember it now. So pi right here is 3.14. And if you write it backwards and make a pi, it's like a mirror image. Check it out. Doesn't this look like P-I-E for this kind of pi? Whoa, mind blown, right? Do you love that or what? Okay, so now you can go on and do the rest of your lesson. I can't wait to see what you do with it. I hope you really enjoyed this one because I think it's a really, really cool topic, okay? Love you, Addy. Bye.